y'all. I'm Stephanie Edwards. I'm a romantic suspense author and I write Southern fiction. I'm here tonight with Courtney and Stephanie, another Stephanie. Oh my goodness. Ladies, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about the books that you write.
Well, I'm Courtney Turner Hoyle. I'm a multi-genre writer. In about, I guess, 20 days, I will have another book coming out called Hollis's Hobby. It's a thriller, and I encourage you to read it and send in splendid reviews on it. Stephanie?
My name is Stephanie Alexander. I also write Southern fiction. All of my work has a speculative element to it, so add something magical or fantastical. And my newest book is actually the third installment in a paranormal kind of cozy mystery series I write called the Tipsy Collins series. It's called Palmetto Rose. It will be out on November 15th.
Great. Well, we're really excited to learn more about your books, but we know you have another career and you're a busy mom too. What inspired you to start writing?
Well, I'm an attorney. I practice in family court here in Charleston, South Carolina. I have been writing for about 13 years now. And I really got started with that when my children were really young. And I was at the time a stay-at-home mom, and I just really felt like I needed something for myself. That was back when my kids went to sleep really early at night. So everybody would be in bed around 7, and I would just, started writing my first novel. I was kind of inspired to write that. It's a fairy tale retelling. And once I started, I never stopped. And yeah, it just felt like the right thing for me to do, to have something that's only like, it's for myself. When you're, giving so much of yourself to your family and your job and, everyone around you, it's nice to have something that you're just kind of doing for yourself. So that's how I started with it.
I see that you have 2 separate series, and could you maybe talk to us a little bit about the similarities and the differences between them?
Yeah, sure. So the first series is called the Crack Slipper series, and that is the fairy tale series I was referencing. That is more of a high fantasy series. It is for an adult female audience, kind of a book club read, but I describe it as like Bridgerton meets Game of Thrones, kind of Jane Austen. And again, since it's high fantasy, it has unicorns and dragons and magic and all that kind of stuff. And it's really the story of what happens to Cinderella after she meets the prince, and he turns out to be a really not a good guy, but she's stuck because she lives in a that doesn't allow her to get divorced, or the way that Anne Boleyn was kind of stuck with Henry VIII after she married him. So that's really about the concept of happily ever after, and what happens when happily ever after isn't what it's cracked up to be. And so when I look at the Tipsy Collins series, that is a kind of a theme that runs through all of my books, is this idea of like, what do we do with our lives as women? Especially, we have these ideas of how our lives are going to be, and that we are going to, whatever it be, you're going to get married and have a family, and you're going to have a perfect career, and we're going to have everything, and everything is just going to be wonderful, and you're going to reach this point where your life is just good and you're happy all the time. And that's not reality. So how do we rebuild our lives and reach a place of like, personal fulfillment when the happily ever after doesn't end up how it's supposed to be? And so that's similar with Tipsy and the Tipsy Collins series. She's going through a divorce. She's a single mom. She thought her life was going to be a certain way, and she's also a clairvoyant, so she solves ghostly mysteries while she's figuring out how to rebuild her life after her divorce.
That's wonderful. What a great connection.
Yeah, definitely. So interesting how you brought this theme through both series. I really love that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Where did the inspiration for Tipsy Collins and her series come from?
I think, the origin of the series stems from me having a thought when I was, a couple years out of my own divorce. The concept again of happily ever after and marriage and till death do you part, and how it's, it's supposed to be this always this lifetime we all go into it thinking it's going to be that way. And I thought, well, what if you could not, even at death, you were not, it was no, till, I guess put it this way, what if till death do us part never ends? Like you could never get away from somebody, and you're unhappy and you just were stuck with them forever, for all eternity. So that kind of sparked the idea of this married couple that are in a house trapped together, and they're ghosts, and they've been there forever and they can't get away from each other. So the character of Tipsy is, I mean, not really based on me, but just I put my own experiences with rebuilding my life into her story, as she is, dealing with her ex-husband and trying to deal with manage her finances and rebuild her career and start dating again, and all of her friends and all their like crazy drama. So that's kind of where the inspiration for Tipsy, and then her story, how it first started, and then it kind of evolved from there with other ghostly mysteries that she solves. But that's the first one.
So your third book in that series is coming out in November.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so that book is called Palmetto Rose, and because Tipsy is an artist, all of the books, the first book is Charleston Green, the second book is Haint Blue, this book is Palmetto Rose. There's all kind of an artistic kind of color theme that goes through the titles of the books. So in this series, Tipsy, she's doing better in her life. She's kind of evolving, but she's reached a place where she feels a little stagnant because she's really tried to take like a year to just focus on herself. Everybody always says that, like, focus on yourself. You got to, get together and focus on yourself. And now she's kind of done that for a year and she's feeling a little stagnant. So she's trying to push her career forward. And she also ends up kind of getting involved in another ghostly mystery, which sparks a new like love interest for her where she wasn't really expecting. And this ghostly mystery, she's trying to kind of help a woman who needs to get rid of the ghosts in her house because she has a teenage daughter who's a clairvoyant and who's had a mental breakdown because of the ghosts in her house. So my husband is a psychiatrist, and there's a lot of discussion of mental health, and mental health and psychiatry play a strong role in this story. And it's nice because I have somebody, my husband, who can like fill me. He's my expert mental health.
That's what I was going to say. It must be nice to have someone there that readily available to answer your questions.
It is. And it was funny when he read it, as most authors, like your spouse is one of the first people I can tell you've really been listening to everything that I say. Because I did a lot of things that he says to me about, the mental health system and, depression and disorders and, personality disorders and, stuff like that. So it's kind of fun to do that.
Any kind of humor that you decided to toss in? Did it come easier with your third book now that you have established her?
I feel like my tone is always a little tongue in cheek. Like in my Crack Slipper books is different from the tone in these books. I mean, that's just kind of my tone in all of my stories has a little bit of sarcastic isn't really the right word, but a little bit of a tongue in cheek feel to it. So, it's kind of fun to lean into that now that I'm really comfortable with these characters in this world and the kind of, all the death related humor, and the ghosts have all their like quirky ways of being. And so, it is fun to just kind of get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as you grow a series, you have a chance to get to know your characters better than, in some cases, how you know your family members, and you're creating them.
Yes.
So have you grown closer to a specific character during this journey?
I mean, Tipsy herself, definitely, because again, I relate to her challenges a lot as a single mom and kind of rebuilding after a divorce. One of the ghosts who has been since book one, his name is Henry, and he was kind of a poet, and he died in the early 1920s. And he's become like a dear friend to her. And I think he was kind of an enigmatic character in the first book. And I feel like readers have kind of expressed that they've enjoyed like getting to know who he really is, because he was a little mysterious at first, and he kind of seemed like maybe he wasn't such a good person, but he both at heart, I think, was a good person, but I've been able to evolve him a lot too, because he's been in all of the books. And I think I'm going to write one more book in this series. And that will focus pretty heavily on him. And then, I will probably be kind of wrapping up the series at that point after 4 books. Some people are good at writing like the same character for like 10 books or something, but I personally cannot do that. I reach a point where I feel like the character has evolved, and you can only evolve someone so much. Then I'm like done with it, so I want to get my characters to a good place and then like know when to bow out gracefully.
Sure.
That's a wonderful way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to set them free and find the next person or people to focus on. That makes sense.
Yeah. You don't want to be like that TV show that everyone's like, why did this not end?
Yep, definitely. So you recently had an audiobook publisher pick up some of your books.
Yeah.
How has that experience been?
That's been an amazing experience. I had Blackstone Audio purchase the rights to my 2 published Tipsy Collins books and all 3 Crack Slipper books. And that's really been an amazing experience, because the narrators that they chose are just truly, really talented people. And I really don't think I understood. I mean, I've listened to some audiobooks, I wasn't a huge audio person, but now after experiencing my own audiobooks, I actually am like, really like, this is a great way for busy people to consume more. And I just cannot believe the talent of these people. Like, it's truly acting like what you just, it's even harder because you're not just acting one character, you're acting all of the characters. And they're very different. I mean, the narrator for the Collins series is a woman, Anna. It's very Southern. The narrator for the Crack Slipper series is a woman who lives in the UK. Just very like, Jane Austen kind of delivery. And it's been really cool.
Very nice. And with that, I know that when I have listened to audiobooks, you talked about a narrator that does it all. I've also heard when they've used different people to act out the parts in audiobooks. And that's fairly interesting too.
Yeah.
Do you have any other writing projects you're going to be concentrating on?
Like I said, I think right now I'm moving on to the 4th book in the Tipsy Collins series. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get that one wrapped up, written faster than the 3rd book. The 3rd book was Palmetto Rose took a lot longer for me than most of my books do. My day job was extremely busy. One of my colleagues is out on maternity leave, so it really was kind of harder to get that one done. I'm hoping that this one will go a little faster and I'll be able to release it, maybe mid, like summertime of next year. And then I just have some, kind of ideas for completely new stories. And I'm kind of excited to get back to writing something that, in a way, I think this new idea will be a little bit of a combination of both the Crack Slipper and the Tipsy books, because it's set in Charleston, but more of a historical kind of angle. So I think it'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. So in each of our videos, we like to talk about a Southern phrase or something that's unique to Southern life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite saying or experience that's just truly Southern?
I thought about this a little bit, and I feel like the best answer for that for me is just that when I'm originally from Maryland, outside of DC, and when I moved to Charleston in 1995 to go to college at the College of Charleston, I was placed in a dorm in a suite with a bunch of girls from a small town in the Low Country, the town called Walterboro. It's like an hour south of Charleston. And I just really feel like I was trying to, because I thought, like, what were some of the sayings that they used to say that where things inspire me, but there are so many that I can't really pick one. And I just feel like any storytelling ability that I have, so much of it comes from my experience with those people. I became, close to them and their friends from home who went to other colleges and their parents, and I would go and stay with them over holiday breaks, and just the storytelling ability of those people and how immersed in their culture telling stories is, and the humor that comes along with that, and the kind of grandiose nature, the hyperbole that's like natural to their storytelling, really inspired me. And to this day, I give that experience. I don't know that I would be the storyteller I am now if I had not lived with those people for several years. So they are my Southern experience. And now I've been in the South for many years myself, and now at this point, but I don't know if I will ever have the natural storytelling ability of people who grew up in Walsboro, South Carolina.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Courtney, did you have any follow-up questions?
I didn't have anything else. I think that I covered a lot of mine whenever we were talking before the interview. I did like what you said about the architecture in Charleston, if you would like to share that.
Yeah. So Charleston, when I came to Charleston, I feel like I loved the College of Charleston. The College of Charleston is a wonderful institution, but I really feel like I came to Charleston because of Charleston, not so much because of the college. Like, college is beautiful and lovely, but it was the city itself that I really fell in love with. And I was just thinking, like, I have to live in this town. Like, I have to live here. And I remember the first time I ever walked down the Battery, and I had literally never seen houses like that were that large, for one thing. And just the feeling that you're in another century when you're here. And I do work downtown. My office is on State Street, State and Chalmers, right in Water. And it's lovely to go to an office. It's really nice to go to an office there. A row house from the 1700s. So it's a cool setup. And there's a lot of development, probably too much development in Charleston right now, but hopefully we'll be able to manage, keep the character of the city.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know how much I love Charleston and the Low Country, just such a peaceful place. There's nothing quite like it. So
It really, I feel very lucky to live here, and I'm very glad that my children have grown up here. It's a wonderful place.
Definitely. Well, is there anything you would like to share? Any parting words for readers or anybody who's aspiring to become an author?
For my readers, I would say thank you for being a little patient with this last Tipsy book. I'm getting a lot of gentle prodding about the book. It did take longer to put out than I was hoping. I thought I would get it out this summer, but so I appreciate everyone's patience. And as far as advice for other people who are writing, I mean, I think so much of it is you just have to do it. You just have to do it. Even when you don't want to do it, you have to do it as much as you can. You have to force yourself, even if it's 500 words. There will be times when you feel like whatever you're writing, especially in a first draft capacity. I mean, I know I often will I just spent 2 hours and that was just awful. But then I find if I let it sit and then the next day I read it over again, I'm like, oh, it's really a lot better than I actually thought it was. And by the time you get to your revisions, then you're good. So, and just that you really though also do have to learn the craft. I mean, you spend the time to learn the craft. You read all the books. You have to, use systems like AutoCrit and things like that will help you pare down your language. One of my personal pet peeves is just don't use people's names in dialogue all the time, because I hear and say to you, Stephanie, are you Stephanie? What did you think about that, Stephanie? Hi, Courtney. When people use names in dialogue all the time, really kind of think about what people actually sound like when they're talking, and they're really that we actually say the person's name when we're speaking
Mhm.
advice. Little.
Yeah, that's really a great tidbit. I remember my first editor totally slashing my very first draft
Yeah.
of The Haunting on Palm Court, saying, okay, how many times in the last week have you said your husband's name?
Right.
When you're asking him to do something, think
Right.
about it, and you realize that you have not. So yeah, I think that's perfect advice.
Yeah, so that's about it. But I really appreciate y'all having me on. It's really fun talking.
Yeah, great
It was
chat.
great to have you.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night. Thank
Yeah.
you for everybody who's watching. We really appreciate you, and tune in next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.